Hello, hello. We're just waiting for folks to join. And I'm going to invite our guest, Jessica Dominguez. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hold on, I'm gonna see if Keith has joined yet. And when he does, oh, here he goes. Let me invite him up. Hey, Keith. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining our Monday meals today. My name is Liz Huck. I'm the Executive Director for Oakland Rising Action. Today, I'm representing Oakland Rising. But we have a really great topic today because as you all have been following probably in the news, and then is that Kaiser has had like a series of strikes or that there's potential for strike. And so we have some really great guests today to talk about that. We have Jessica Dominguez, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist with Kaiser, and Keith Brown, who is with the Labor Council, the president of the Labor Council right now, and OEA, the Oakland Education Association. So, but I want to start off by giving you a little brief. You know, this is called Monday Meals because there was a time when I was doing sort of this side hustle where I was selling meals, lunch meals for Monday, and I called it Monday Meals. And, you know, I didn't think about it this way, but when I started it, it ended up being that every time I like dropped off a meal or I talked to somebody about it, or when they came to pick up their meals, and I got to check in with them, right? Get to see how they were doing, and I got to see how their families were doing. And so this is what this became when I came to Oakland Rising. It morphed into this IG Live event where then I check in with folks on what are you eating and how are you taking care of yourself, right? And so what are the ways that you nourish yourself? So it's lunchtime. We're having a chat over lunch. I want to hear what you're eating for lunch. And if there's folks who are joining us too, that they could drop it in the chat, like, what are you having for lunch? Because I want to know. Because I want some ideas on what to eat for lunch. So Jessica, what are you having for lunch?
Well, look, it's nothing special, but it's dear to my heart. I'm nursing a little bit of a sore throat because I've been out on strike all week in solidarity. So my throat was a little sore. So I went old school and I had Maruchan noodle chicken flavor with with tapatio and lots of lemon because I feel like that really, not only is it like good for the soul, but it also soothes my throat. So I just had to keep it really real for myself.
Oh, I love that though. That sounds so hearty. Christine in the chat is having chicken quesadillas. That sounds hella good too. How about you, Keith? What are you having for lunch?
I'm having water for lunch because I intend to get down this Thursday, so I don't want to overdo it too much this week. But yeah, right now I'm just enjoying some water, but I do look forward to spending time with family, eating good food Thursday, and then also getting some walking in because it's going to be definitely necessary. But right now I'm sticking with water. I might have a little snack after the call, but I just have my water right now.
So you just making room for Thursday. You're like, I know I'm gonna eat a lot.
That's a good strategy.
I like that. I like that. I am going to be having some leftovers. We had I had made some clam soup, so a Korean style spicy clam soup. So I'm gonna have the rest of that today. To also, just because it's cold, I walked out this morning and it was chilly. So in that vein too, with Monday meals, is that we not only nourish our bodies with lunch, but what are the other ways that you're nourishing yourself? So your mind, your body, your spirit, your heart. What are you doing to do that? How do you take care of your soul?
Ooh, well, for me right now, the biggest way that I'm taking care of myself is to really honor my limits and my boundaries, which means like when my workday is done, like closing up the laptop, not answering emails, really keeping it to like, look, this is work time and my time, like to myself, is for myself. And when I am out and about, going on walks, I have a dog, Lucy, that I absolutely adore. Spending time with friends, and of course, with the upcoming holiday, planning meals and really getting ready to share that with family. I think it's self-care, but it's almost like future self-care. Like my present self is supporting my future self and taking even better care of myself. So that's where I am right now with my self-care regimen.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What kind of dog is Lucy?
Lucy is a 3-legged Chihuahua mix.
Aww.
She's fierce.
I love it. How about you, Keith? What are the ways that you're nourishing yourself?
No, I appreciate the lessons from Jessica, and that's very important. I've been trying to, just walk more often and, really do things such as, you can't sit down all the time. You got to be moving. That's just so important. So I want to, spend time and walk the lake, just, enjoy the outdoors. And also this week for my own spiritual nourishment, I'm looking forward to the sunrise ceremony at Alcatraz this Thursday, just to acknowledge our indigenous peoples and just take things in perspective. But I do celebrate Thanksgiving. It's a time to come together with friends and family, enjoy good food, which I look forward to doing. But I'm just grateful to have this time this week to take care of self-care and relax a bit.
I heard that. The getting outdoors is really important to me. But I went on this retreat at the beginning of October, and one of the things that I walked away from that is just listening to my body. My body's like, take a nap. I was like, all right, I'm going to take a nap. And not that it's that easy to do during the day, but if I can schedule between my meetings a good buffer, sometimes I can be like, okay, I'm a little tired. Instead of like going from one meeting to another, looking at my screen to read emails, I'll actually stop and be like, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute power nap and just like put my head back and then just close my eyes and just rest my body so that my mind and my spirit is ready to like jump back into the work, because it's so demanding, right?
Right.
So thank you for sharing that. And as you all are joining us too, like drop in the chat the ways that you're nourishing yourself. Like, is it a good book? What's the best tea that you're having these days? Where's the best hike that you have been going on, so that we can all also share with that. But as we're looking at right now, I got an email 3 weeks ago that we're saying that the pharmacists at Kaiser were going to go out on strike and make sure that you had your prescriptions filled, and then also learning from any NUHW folks that the strike is possibly happening at Kaiser, and then I know that the janitors went out on strike, and then there's some really great news. So also knowing that Kaiser employs about 150,000 people in Northern California, right? And they have such a presence in Oakland. So catch me up. Catch all of our people here from Oakland Rising and then all across Oakland, like what's happening with all of the strikes so that people know, like, what are the ways that they can support and that they can understand what's happening for workers right now?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I think is really important for people to know is that our engineers at Kaiser Local 39 have been on the line 24/7 for the past 66 days.
Woo! 66.
Yeah, 66. They're entering their third month on strike. And it's been, like I said, I was out along with a few colleagues in solidarity all last week, got to have some conversations with them. And, they're just asking for a fair contract. And it's been very disheartening to see what's being put out in the media by Kaiser about how they're the highest paid engineers. And it's so not true. I mean, if it were true how much they're getting paid, they would be getting paid like way more than a bunch of us at Kaiser. And they're factoring in things like all of their benefits, and all of these additional, like their health care. They're making this giant round number to make it sound like they're getting so well paid, when in actuality, Local 39, which I don't know if a lot of folks know this, but I learned this week, they're at lots of different hospitals throughout Oakland and Northern California. And Kaiser is actually the hospital that pays them the lowest. So they're just asking for what's fair and what's comparable to their other, comrades at Local 39 and other sites. And it just breaks my heart because like I said, they're out there 24/7. In the cold, in the darkness, they're exhausted. And so the last week, a lot of different unions, NUHW, SEIU, our nurses, CNA, came out and had a one-day solidarity strikes to just really bring more attention to this issue, because a lot of people confuse the tentative agreement that was signed down south with Kaiser and some of their unions through the alliance. They think that things are settled, and it's actually two separate issues. So I think it's really important for people to know, if you are, go down to Broadway. They're at 3501 Broadway, right next to the parking structure. Say hi or spend a day with them, grab a sign and pick it. And I think it's a great way to get to know what's going on and really lend the support.
So it sounds like, and maybe Keith can talk a little bit about this, right? So 150,000 employees in Northern California, 300-something thousand across the state of California. But it sounds like what folks need to know as a primer is that there are many different unions involved and many different sectors of work within Kaiser. Because I think people think, oh, it's just doctors and nurses, right? But there are tons of different jobs that are happening at Kaiser and that aren't just doctors and nurses. So I'm wondering, Keith, if you might be able to give us a little bit of that primer on that so that folks know what we're talking about.
Yes, and I want to encourage everyone to come out, if you can, to support our stationary engineers, to come out on Broadway and support their strike. Our stationary engineers at Kaiser play such an important role for our community, and just an important role of keeping the infrastructure of Kaiser Permanente running. And I know that this week educators in Oakland have the week off, and I want to encourage my fellow OEA members, educators, to come out to the picket lines to support the stationary engineers, Local 39, and especially, as Jessica mentioned, that they've been on strike since September. And we're coming into the holidays. They need support. They need support on the picket lines. Also, if you can bring things such as grocery gift cards, because, that's a long time not to be at work. And our stationary engineers, they have families to support. So I want to, encourage that folks think of things like that. Also, to send emails. I believe the Kaiser CEO name is Greg Adams, and to send emails to the Kaiser CEO that are stationary engineers. They deserve a fair contract. They're asking for wage parity, and that's something that Kaiser.
Tell us what that means. Can you say what that means so folks know?
They basically they want to be paid comparable to other hospitals, other employers. So they're not asking for the sky. They want a living wage. They want a fair wage. And just also looking at Kaiser, there are so many workers that's a part of the Kaiser system. We have our social workers, also our psychologists, nurses, and they all deserve a fair wage, a living wage. And Kaiser, they have billions of dollars in profits. They can make it happen. And one thing that we learned during this pandemic, that corporate greed does not stop during the pandemic. It shows what we've always known, that during the pandemic, our healthcare workers, our frontline workers are heroes. But a hero is more than a slogan, and it gets unmasked when our workers demand more. And that's what's happening right now in the labor movement, where we have just, across the country, our frontline workers are demanding more because they have been out supporting our communities, out doing the necessary work to keep us safe. And during this time, like looking at the Kaiser workers and showing solidarity, where last Thursday and Friday, there were solidarity strikes with nurses and social workers and therapists supporting our stationary engineers. So this is a part of a broader labor movement that is awakening during this pandemic. And it's important that corporations such as Kaiser acknowledge the work of our frontline workers, more than just a slogan, but making sure that they have a fair wage.
I appreciate that. And Jessica, could you say more about why you decided to, go out and support the engineers and what that means? And y'all, so I think this is also another illusion that people have about people that go out on strike and what it means to go out on strike and the risk that people are taking, right? That, and often the framing around it is that they're being selfish. They're not thinking about the greater good. And so I wonder if you could talk about that in the ways that therapists at Kaiser are supporting the engineers and what that means for the greater stability and the ability for workers to demand their rights.
Yeah, well, firstly, I just want to say that, although our union had authorized a one-day strike, just thinking about it, I felt like it was the right thing to do personally, to go out and sympathy strike for as long as I could. The stationary engineers have always gone out on strike in sympathy with us at NUHW. They've always had our back. I've been at Kaiser 7 years. I've been on strike 3 times, and the local 39 has always been there for us. So I really felt like it was time to step up and be there for them. And that's what really compelled me to go out on strike. When we go out on strike, we do not make any money. So we lose all of our wages. There's no vacation pay. There's no paid time off that we get to dip into, unless we've collected, some funds through our strike fund. we're sacrificing our wages, right? And during that time, you know, and in a single income household like my own, it's a big thing to lose your wages for a day, let alone a week. But that felt like the right thing to do for them. You know, when you're up against a giant like Kaiser and they're not willing to negotiate in good faith, or they're not willing to listen to the people and how the communities are being impacted, how families are being impacted. The only thing you have left to do is withhold your labor. It's like it's your last bargaining chip. And it's not something that we want to do. I know I'm a mental health therapist. I love my clients. I serve the Latinx community specifically in Espanol. And I know there's not a lot of us out there doing that work. But, you know, I have to really step up and live my values around really supporting our communities, because when workers are harmed, families are harmed and communities are harmed. And that's just, you know, it's all connected. And I know that Local 39 did not expect to be out this long. And a lot of us are shocked that Kaiser is dragging it along as for 66 days, now going on 67. And so we just really wanted to show our solidarity and do the right thing.
And, you know, I just noticed that Local 39 Strike Against Kaiser joined. Would you all mind if I ask them to join us?
Sure.
Please.
Okay, here we go. Hopefully they'll say yes and join us. So, yeah, and, you know, I think that's an important thing for people to know. Like, there are so many organizations. Oh, they declined it. But the organizations who know that I know, so many nonprofits and so many businesses offer Kaiser as their healthcare provider, right? And I don't know, it's like I feel like every single person I know goes to Kaiser to get their care. And so, what are the ways you think, besides like hitting at the picket line, joining at the picket line, or offering folks to you know, maybe provide a gift card? What are some ways that folks can really support the workers on the line? And I see someone put in the chat that there's a Local 39 strike fund, so that would probably go and this would probably go directly to the workers on the line, right?
Yes, they have a strike fund set up through GoFundMe. There's information there too, where they're stationed at 3501 Broadway on how you can donate. But, you know, ultimately, you're right. Kaiser's like the #1 provider of healthcare in California. Everybody in some way or shape or form is touched by Kaiser, whether it's ourselves or our family members. And I think, you know, the public, all of us as patients, I'm a Kaiser provider, but I'm also a Kaiser patient. I think all of us have more power to actually demand change. I think we can call Kaiser. I really recommend people to call Kaiser, call member services on the back of their card. There's a number there listed at the bottom, and to file a complaint and to really push and say, hey, you know, I'm paying for this insurance. I'm paying these premiums, or I'm working with my employer and they're paying for this insurance for me. I really want you all to really negotiate in good faith with the unions that are going out on strike. Because ultimately, like, people power is what moves and changes. And I don't think Kaiser is being compelled out of the goodness of their heart to do the right thing. Otherwise, they would have already done it. So I think it's up to us, the public and the members, to really push back and say, look, like, you owe it to us and you owe it to them to do the right thing.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in. Like, I see in the chat a link for the strike fund. I want to encourage everyone to contribute what they can. That's so important to help striking workers. And Oakland teachers, we are forever grateful for the community of Oakland for supporting us in 2019 during our strike. I know Oakland Rising and parents and other unions contributed to our strike fund. And yes, it's a collective effort of labor and community. And labor and community, it is not separate. Labor is the community. Kaiser workers, whether they're stationary engineers, whether they're therapists, nurses, their parents. They have students in our public school system. Labor is community, and this is an action where we must come together as a community and tell Kaiser that they must do the right thing and to make sure that Kaiser workers have a living wage. And I know that historically, Kaiser healthcare system, it was created for working class families to have access to affordable health care. But we look at the healthcare system now, it's in a shambles with corporate greed and the healthcare industry raking billions of dollars of profits while the cost goes up for families and community where that it shouldn't have to be that way. Kaiser has enough to pay their workers and to also ensure that there's affordable health care for families in the community. So, want to encourage, everyone to support, like email the Kaiser CEO, Greg Adams, come out to the picket line, donate whatever you can to their strike fund. But this is the fight that's happening at Kaiser is a fight that will happen in other industries, in other workplaces. So we have an awakening labor movement where 2-3 years ago there was a Red for Ed movement of educators, and now it's continuing through the pandemic with all workers.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that context. And I don't know what the issue is, you all, with why my mic is so scratchy. I apologize for that. I don't know how to fix it at this moment. But as some folks dropped in the chat that there is a comment drop boxes, there's probably an online complaint link. You can also send there. I wonder also that there's some other pending sectors in Kaiser workers who are considering going out on strike. Is there any updates about that? And if you all might be able to provide any information, that'd be really great.
Well, I know our union, NUHW, we're trying to negotiate our contract. We've been without a contract now since September as well. And it's been like pulling teeth. And it always is. Like I said, we go out every time our contract expires, we end up going on strike. And it's sort of like, again, it almost feels like this is part and parcel to being part of the Kaiser system. When you're an employee, it's like inevitable. You're going to have to go out on strike. I really encourage people to go to our website, NUHW.org, and learn about why we go on strike, how we're just really pushing for mental health parity so that mental health can be held and funded the way health is at Kaiser, because we know that both mental health and physical health are so connected. There's no way to remove them apart from each other. And we are seeing how our Black and Brown, our BIPOC communities are most affected right now, given how COVID disproportionately impacted everybody. And we're seeing record numbers of people accessing care, which is great in terms of stigma. Like, the stigma has pretty much disappeared. But those of us who are the providers are being exploited because they're just bringing in more and more and more patients, but we're not having the resources or the infrastructure to support the large number of people seeking mental health care. And everybody deserves to have the care that they need when they need it, so it doesn't get worse. And so I think, obviously I don't know where things are going to be going in terms of our any upcoming strikes, but for now, we don't have a contract, and as much as we're trying to say, listen to us, please provide culturally affirming, linguistically appropriate services for our diverse communities and families. or all of these pleas that we make around really changing the model of care to be both supportive for the communities and the providers, because it can't be one without the other, those pleas just kind of get shut down, or there's not even an acknowledgement that there's even a problem in the first place.
Right. I see in the chat some folks are saying that the Pharmacy Guild is voting now, and they should know by December 3rd whether or not their membership ratifies the tentative agreement or not. And I think that's really, this is good for folks to know, like the precariousness of not having a contract, and then the precariousness of not knowing what your future holds with your employer is not only uneasy, but it puts your entire family at jeopardy, right?
Right.
So I really appreciate you both coming on today. Thank you so much for the information. Like, Keith, if you want to tell us where they could find you and the Labor Council, and that'd be really great. Like, if you want to share the socials and anything else.
Yeah, so the Alameda Labor Council, we have a Facebook page, and also we have a website, and Alameda Labor Council, we represent more than 135 unions in Alameda County, and that's workers in healthcare, education, transportation, construction. So just one last shout out to support our stationary engineers this week. And also December 3rd, the AC Transit drivers, they're having a rally in downtown Oakland, Oscar Grant Plaza at noon. They're also in a contract fight and demanding hazard pay. So, but frontline workers across the board are standing up for their rights during this pandemic.
That's really good to know. Thank you for sharing that information. And folks who are from Local 39, if you also want to drop in the chat how they can support, again, the strike fund, and then also where they can find Local 39 to find out more information. But Jessica, if you want to also share out any of NUHW's info and where they might be able to follow along too.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, our website is nuhw.org. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all over the place. Please, it's so important for folks to really voice what they need and what they demand from Kaiser, especially mental health care. And I just really want to encourage folks, if you are a mental health patient and you feel like you're not getting the timely, equitable care that you deserve and are entitled to, I really want to encourage you to file a complaint with Kaiser Member Services. As I mentioned, the number's on the back of your card. And you might also want to follow up and file a complaint with the Department of Managed Healthcare, who is in charge and is the larger entity in charge of regulating and making sure that all of these giant healthcare corporations really do provide the care that they're promising and that you're paying for.
Thank you both so much. And to all of you who joined today and joined this conversation, injury to one is an injury to all. Also means justice for one is justice for all. So really appreciate all the work that you all are doing, and hitting the streets and getting and being able to support our workers, and particularly during this pandemic, right? We're still ongoing during this pandemic, y'all. But we expected our healthcare workers and the people who are in that system to continue providing us care and continue to ask our AC Transit drivers and other frontline workers to do the work. And so we should really get out there and support them and understand that, when we're lifting the floor for everybody to stand on the lowest denominator, it's lifting the floor for all of us to be able to stand and thrive together. So, so thank you again. Check out all the socials for Alameda Labor Council and to NUHW, Local 39. Really get out there and support our folks. And hopefully we'll see you out on the street in front of Broadway at the Kaiser Center. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.